Hi everyone, Trina Phoenix here, and I was going to read a little bit more from the Alchemy book and talk a little bit about it because we were kind of discussing some of this on Wayne's show today about the power of the word and communication and speech and the power of what we are. So with that, I wanted to reiterate what we just finished with when we were closing the book. And thank you guys all so much for being here. I just love you and it means a lot. So thank you. So we'll begin. It says, in truth, in the true science of the religion he taught, all mankind can and shall declare, with the blessed Son of God, I am. God in me is the way, the truth, and the life. And understand that it is the I am that I am, the Lord God dwelling in them, who is, was, and forevermore shall be the way, the truth, and the life. And then in the book, in the likeness of Jesus and Saint Germain, these paintings were painted by Charles Sindler, a famous American artist and illustrator of the 1920s and 1930s. It says Christ appeared to the artist in 22 consecutive mornings at 2 a.m. The image of the master would appear throughout the day over both the canvas and the etching plate, distracting him from his work until he took the advice of a friend to paint what you have seen. So he also had the same thing, visits from the image from Master Saint Germain, and this continued until he painted them. And it says, here's the finished work of what he drew. And that's them. So then, we go on to, it's chapter 1, and this is Gracious Men and Women, and it's called Power. So, okay. And now we abideth, faith, hope, charity, these three. But the greatest of these three is charity. Basto. So, gracious men and women, persistency is recognized as a quality which eventuates in the manifestation of some aspect of perfection. The courage which men externalize by holding fast to a specific momentum in the face of every attempt to prevent its manifestation is a thing of beauty, a joy to every heart, and most wondrous to behold. The very thought of power in itself brings delight to the hearts of men. The power of the universe depicted in the heavens tells men that seemingly far-off aspects of God for which their souls hunger, but unto which it appears impossible to draw nigh. Hope, together with the element of faith, has enabled men to release some degree of power into their worlds and to subject it to their control. A power defined. It says A. Power defined. Now, power has taken many forms. Abuses have marred its use, whereas virtue has enhanced it. Tyrants have exploited it, and politics and religion have been molded around the star of power blazing in the firmament of society. The primary types of power are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy in various forms. There is electrical, chemical, nuclear, elemental, and cosmic power. And there is temporal power, consisting of social influences and mass pressures, governmental and religious authority. Meanwhile, karmic power affects everyone's status, attainment, and progress. All power is interrelated. Some is stored, some is static, some is dynamic and subject to a rapid decay rate. All power is subject to two primary qualifications under the classification of relativity, divine and human, or cosmic universal and material transitionary. The Maltese Cross, emblem of my dedication to the cause of freedom, is a balanced thought form which may be used to illustrate the qualifications of power. As many realize, a cross symbolizes the meeting of two planes of consciousness, the horizontal bar representing the plane of the human consciousness and the plane of the ego, and the vertical bar representing the energies of God descending from the realm of spirit into the quadrants of matter. The center where the two lines intersect is the point, the orifice, where the energies of heaven are released to the earth. And in truth, it is at that point, which is actually the point of the qualification of power. The great alertness must be maintained by all who use power in its many aspects, including its organic and inorganic forms. The power of speech itself. The power in the spoken word and the power of the word, whether released by a pen or edict of a sword, changes the course of history and alters the lives of those affected by its release. Whatever its subsequent use or abuse, the tangled threads of power have always been flowed symbolically and actually from the orifice of the cross. The Maltese Cross is a symbol of perfect balance, both in the alignment of the four planes of matter and the four cosmic forces thereof, and in the inner and the outer expression of God's Spirit within the soul of His own. As such, the Maltese Cross illustrates the drawing forth of light's energy and consciousness from on high, through the north arm, for the manifestation in the world of form of God's omnipotence and omniscience and omnipresence through the west, south, and east arms, respectively. And, as we shall soon see in the cosmic interchange between God and man, the universal light is beamed forth as above, so below, to the right, to the left, in the center, in a perfect equilibrium of power, wisdom, and love. Blessed ones, it is easy to complicate that which is simple, but it is often most difficult to simplify that which is really complicated. This I shall attempt to do for you in this study. Bear in mind that when a child first begins the study of arithmetic, he is dealing with simple sums and the concrete in his world of counting things. He can little conceive of the intricate threads of a logarithm and abstract equations. Man should then realize that the perfectionment, that's a different word, perfectionment, because there's a hyphen, of the soul in God must take into account the training of the child man and the fact that so-called cradles of negation, e.g., compartments in the world of form, that have been created as classrooms or schools of soul testing where transmutation and noble changes can be affected that will result in an expansion of the flame of freedom, raising every son of liberty into the totality of his identity and his divine manhood. In simplifying the understanding concerning the release of power, it will be shown that the bodies of man, by definition, are receptacles of that power. Thus, his physical, mental, emotional, and etheric sheaths of consciousness are recipients of the charge of power that is released through the electronic pattern of the Maltese Cross. You know what is really profound as I'm seeing this? The ancient Sumerian mitochondria. When they were looking at blood a certain way, the Maltese Cross was a symbol that was showing up within it. So I keep seeing the blood in the cross, and that's amazing because I'm seeing how that this is the powers of creation coming from the north, the south, the east, and the west. It's very interesting because almost everything is when you're creating, you invoke the north, the south, the east, and the west. So for the purposes of the study, it is best that we consider the dawn, the beginning of each day, as the arbitrary point of origin for power's release. That's why they face the east gate in the morning when the sun is rising. Amazing. When self-conscious awareness once again floods the altar of individuality and men begin again to think and to perceive. For this, too, is an employment of power, but one which is often abused by neglect. Few today are aware of the degree of power which God has conferred upon man through the gifts of consciousness. Few are aware that they possess the power of focalization and intensification in the proper exercise of their attention through individual consciousness, nor do they realize that the interpretive and discriminatory action of God self-enables them to take a firm hold of the reins of power, to be in control of their lives, and to be less distracted by the social and karmic responsibilities that are daily thrust upon them. B. Self-dominion. Your reins of power. This statement, made of old, he that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that is ruthless, his spirit, than he taketh a city, should be understood. Were it so, more adepts and masters would rise in every generation to take the reins of dominion over themselves and their worlds. It is an act, I need a drink, of utter compassion for the universal law and for the universal love for you to obtain dominion over the finite self. When this happens in your life, and happens it shall, as the law is made known, you will realize that you cannot remain a novice and still be a master. Although you live in a plane of the human consciousness, you must not be subject to its depredations. Inasmuch as the world is filled with idle minds and idling minds, even when housed in a dedicated consciousness, are often tools of the sinister force, the devil's workshop, as they say. It behooves the student of the deeper truth to recognize that he alone can and must govern his own world through right use of power. in this sphere of cosmic coexistence, where the energies of the macrocosm and the microcosm flow as one. There is a daily release of great power from the Godhead and a subsequent abuse of that power by mankind. Some men watch the abuses of others and then respond with an equal or greater abuse of power. Thus, they gauge their power, train accordingly to the qualifications of power by individuals and society. This is not action, but reaction. Others, sometimes consciously and deliberately, and at times thoughtlessly or unconsciously, generate discordant thought forms and auric emanations from their beings through the triggering actions of bad habits and momentums. I would like to list some of the abuses of power in order that you might perceive how people become the unwitting tools of subtle qualities of negation and how they take in, amplify, and discharge this noxious substance into the planetary atmosphere. First, there is boredom, an insufficient state of mind wherein all seems quite profitless to the individual who cannot see beyond the vanity of the world to the reality of the next. In this disfranchising state, akin to a vacuum, men denude their souls of vitality. Then there is dissatisfaction, in which men assess their own progress or lack of it by dishonesty in self or self-deceit. They are unwilling to admit their role in fashioning their own weaknesses. Instead, they effect a transfer of responsibility to others, assigning the blame for their own failures or lack of progress, often carried on at a subconscious level. This ruse of the carnal mind remains the primary cause of personal stagnation. Then, too, there are the numerous types of fear, one of its most devastating forms, which I desire to call to your attention. It is that which even the sincere sometimes attribute to the Godhead. Given men's propensity to fashion their gods after themselves, it is to their altogether human quality of whimsy, which stems from a deep-seated insecurity. Although they themselves have a whimsical nature, they cannot bear the thought of being subject to a whimsical God. Therefore, they conclude, for dark and unclear reasons unknown even to themselves, that their life streams are not in favor with the universe, and that they must withdraw therefrom. In this anxious frame of mind, they may tend towards aggressive forms of rebellion, or their attitude may become one of civility, wherein boy, I feel energy trying to block my throat chakra reading this information to you guys. It's kind of powerful. Okay, so let me do that again. In the anxious frame of mind, they may tend towards aggressive forms of rebellion, or their attitude may become one of civility, wherein they easily tolerate feelings of lethargy, depression, and hopelessness. There is I have literally a tickle right in my throat. Like, it's annoying. It's like, my throat chakra is freaking out momentarily. Okay. Oh, shoot. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, it feels better. Whew. I was like, wow, that is crazy energy going out my throat right now. Okay. So the Godhead, okay, where were we? Okay. There is the vibration of doubt, which we would also touch upon. Doubt stems from fear and from a lack of real self-knowledge. This is true. That's why Wayne says, if you learn to doubt your doubt, you'll never doubt your doubt again. While self-doubt, as lurking suspicion, colors one's doubts of everyone else, some who believe themselves to be fearless and in possession of greater knowledge than they in fact have, may not accept the statement I am making. Nevertheless, I shall affirm that it is true. And when the light of the greater understanding men will have dispelled their own self-ignorance, their doubts too will fly out the window. Yep. But men must allow themselves time enough to achieve this, as the Master said, in your patience possess ye your souls. So in your patience possess ye your souls. Now, there are many other traits and influences which we could go into here, but I do not choose to prolong the enumeration of the negatives to which mankind are host. Rather, I would point out, on the basis of a thorough analysis of those I have listed, that mankind's abuses of power are created primarily as a result of their ignorance and misunderstanding of the laws governing the flow and use of energy. Moreover, to the great masses inhabiting the planet, from whom even a rudimentary knowledge of the science of karma has been withheld, it is somewhat difficult to explain the cycles of reincarnation that predestine the return of abused power to the one who has misused it. The horror with which some who profess to be religious view any doctrine that is not approved by their church of their fathers as a millstone about their necks. How unfortunate. For if they are able to be free from the shackles of the ancient dogma, they must open wide the doors of their mind, without fear and without prejudice. C. The oneness of life. 4 lower bodies. Now, it must be understood with cherishment that all life is one, and that the abuse of power on the part of any member of the world body has its effect upon the all. But, by a like token, the correct use of power by anyone upon the planet brings its blessings to all. Power is energy. Energy stored in the physical body can be measured as the sum total of energy content of all body cells. When this energy is spent, it becomes necessary to, in some way, reinfuse the cells with energy in order to renew the power of the body. To reinfuse or infuse the body cells with a new and vital energy when those cells are already clogged with accumulations of negativity, qualified substance, residual deposits of power misused through wrong thought and feeling, is to particularly negate the flow of energy in the body. This can cause fatigue or loss of power, which, if unchecked, eventually results in the so-called death, the cessation of the flow of power from the presence to the physical form. Consider the value of fleshing out these accumulations by spiritual electronics, and the gradual building up of light in the 4 lower bodies by the 4-fold alchemy of the Maltese Cross and the science of the spoken word. Thus, it is most necessary to understand the relationship of the 4 lower bodies as you pursue the rebuilding of the temple of man as a wise master builder. The mental body interpenetrates the physical body as water interpenetrates a sponge. Having its own reservoir of power, it is not dependent upon the physical body, except as a focal point for the flow and distribution of power. Yet, the four lower bodies of man are so interrelated that if the mental body is to operate at an optimum efficiency, the other three must be in perfect alignment with it and with each other. The densities that the mental body encounters in the physical body, such as the harmful residues of nicotine, drugs, and impure foods, or even the substance of fear, doubt, and mental rebellion accumulated from past lives, clog the brain cells and imprison the light of the atom, effectively impeding the free flow of light to the physical consciousness and thereby impairing the function of the mental faculties. When misused, the power of the emotional body becomes the most violent and volatile of the four lower bodies. When agitated by undisciplined feelings, these emotional energies have a tendency to lead man astray in their thinking and in their actions. The flow of power to the mental body is also greatly subject to the power of the etheric or memory mental body. In memory storehouse, the writings of all past actions in present and previous embodiments stand as an electronic record of considerable weight and influence, hence your own personal vibration, your own vibratory rate. It's like a fingerprint. It's unique to you. The power of this record, together with the momentums generated by the misuse of energy, is a subtle pressure that affects the present moment, for good or for ill, relatively speaking, unless it is brought under the control of the balancing power of the great God flame within the heart, the immortal flame of power, wisdom, and love. D, the Maltese Cross. Okay, guys, I think I'll stop there, and that's where we'll pick up. Let me see how much more we have left. Okay. Yeah, we'll pick up there, because then it's going into the Maltese Cross and all it involves. So we'll see that. Maltese Cross, the focus of the distribution of energy from spirit to matter. Macrocosm is the day side of life, and the microcosm is the night side of life. Wow. Left, right, single foot action. Wow. Very beautiful. So we'll go into that next time, because we're going to need a little bit of time to go through that. That is very beautiful. So that's awesome information. I would suspect you all enjoy, because I know that this is true. We are powerful creators, and we've just forgotten that we are, and we got to clean our bodies and clear our habits and our patterns, and that's hard. And when it talks about, smoking, eating meat, and all this other stuff, and bad foods and all that, like I said, we're immersed in a toxic world right now. So, the best we can do to try to not be so toxic is really good for everybody. But like I said, guys, know you're human, and don't expect yourself to be all perfect and walking around like, do it if that's your calling to do it. Like Kent Nichols right now, Kent, he's being drawn to do that. He's being drawn to walk that path. So, like I said, go with your flow. But don't discredit yourself if you're not in a match with what you're seeing being brought forth to you. Work on yourself for yourself. Work on what you need to do because you just know that you want to. But don't, like I said, don't try to compare yourself with anything or anyone else, because we're all very unique, extremely different, extremely potent. And that is is the fullness of creation. And when we work together and cooperate, that's powerful, because this is where the true power really comes into place, is when we as beings literally come together with our hearts as one, and try to work towards common goals. That's when the true power of creation really opens up. It's not about just one, it's about the many, because we're collective soul here. We're all sharing one collective consciousness. So that is definitely part of what we are as a human, species. So we're learning that we're much more than we thought we were, and that's a beautiful thing. And now it's time to start to remember how to activate our superpowers that were given to us by creation itself. So I hope this helps y'all, and I hope it stimulates more awareness of how to actually access and work on the powers that you were born with. So embrace that which you are, which is an I am presence, and spirit and matter all working as one unified field of consciousness. And it looks like quantum reality. So it's a game. If this is true, then let's play it well, and let's start to create, and let's start to play with the abilities that we are potentially born with, but that were shut off. Because if they can be turned off, we can turn them back on. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll catch you on the next one. Basto, send it out to everyone you can. Be of service to others. Basto. Many people ask, what does Basto mean? Basto, be of service to others. This is how we win. So I love you guys. Remember, we're one family, one soul, and the more of us that can wake up to that and start to unify and heal and create, it's just going to create a better world, especially when we're using it for the will of good. And that's when they say, thy will be done. It's the highest potentials and outcomes for humanity. It's serving highest, best good. So thy will be done, in essence, means high and best good for all. So when we work with those principles and we create under those laws, there's nothing that can go wrong with that. So manifest well and manifest for the good of all. And working with that, you'll start to see manifestations come into your life through that power. And this is an individual as well as a collective experience, so you can also see it individually in your life. But always shoot for the aim that it serves highest and best good for all. All. That means earth, water, sky, fire, energy, humanity, animals, earth, all of it. And even outside of earth, because we apparently can affect much more outside of our earth realm than we have an awareness of. So always pray that it's highest and best good for all. And that means on a macrocosm level. Go macrocosm with it. So always resonate with that which is the largest part of what we are. And that's the macrocosm. We are in a microcosmic experience within a macrocosm, but nonetheless, we're part of that macrocosm. So I love you guys. Have a great day or night wherever you may be, and I'll see you soon. I love you, Soul Tribe. Thanks for being here. Oops. As the bells ring. $5 o'clock. Have a beautiful day. Bye.